Got it. Church here, and welcome to the Game Grinder, and today we're doing a pickup video, and it has been a little while. Fortunately, with the span of time, my collecting has slowed down a little bit, but within 4 months, I have picked up a few things, and it is time to do a pickup video. Also, it is beneficial for me to do this so I can get everything categorized into my collection when I move my game room over to the new space. New background, new layout, so I'm pretty excited, and hopefully the new background for videos in the future will be pretty cool. So of course I had to spoil the surprise. As I said here, I picked up Shantae for the Game Boy Color. Huge shout out to Amanda and Quinn for the hookup in Roseville, Minnesota. So one of my other friends, Lewis, sent me a message and said, hey, they got Shantae on the Game Boy Color. And I was like, why would nobody tell me this? I'm like infamous for, you know, the whole Shantae thing, as most of you probably already know. So I hit him up, was able to work out a deal, ended up trading my Earthbound for the Super Nintendo and Rule of Rose for the PlayStation 2, which is unfortunate to lose those from my collection, but you know, I'd much rather have Shantae for the Game Boy Color than those two games. And it'll be a lot easier to get those games again in the future since they are not as pricey as Shantae. So of course that is super exciting. Finally have my own legit copy of Shantae for the Game Boy Color. Who knows in the future if I'll ever be able to get the manual or the box. I'm going to hold out hopes that someday I will be able to make that work. So now I have a pretty much complete Shantae collection. And as you can see, I have a new Shantae shirt. This is from Fan Gamer, and I thought it was pretty cool. So bumping up the collection there, expanding a little bit, and that's always fun. And then also I just wanted to mention that I got another shirt. Super huge thanks to Dan of MGC, the Midwest Gaming Classic. He hooked me up with a Midwest Gaming Classic shirt from the convention last year, as I totally space picking one up, and he was nice enough to find one for me, and that is super exciting. So, you know, it's nice to have the memorabilia from past experiences, and hopefully this coming year I'll pick up another one, and eventually I'll have my own collection of shirts from conventions to add to the game collection, because hey, memories are a large part of what this is all about. And one other little bit of Shantae goodness to add to the collection is a Shantae resin statue kit. Picked this up a while ago, haven't had the chance to put this together. The process is a little bit confusing. So it comes pre-painted as the picture shows, but you have to put it together. You actually have to cut off extra bits of plastic. You have to like soak it in some solution to get out oils. You have to strengthen the joints by using little pieces of wire. So I'm still kind of wrapping my head around that whole process. If anybody has ever put together one of these statues, I would love to pick your brain. I have a lot of questions about tools and where to get them, things like that. So hopefully once I get the game room moved over, I will start working on this, and I think it will really pull together the Shantae collection. So that's pretty neat. Not terribly expensive. The nice thing about these resin kits is that basically you put it together, so you save that cost, because it is quite a bit of work, I guess, to do these. Definitely a few hours. Things like this typically can go for anywhere from like $150 to like $300. So doing the work yourself makes it a lot more cheaper. So that's cool. I like to save a buck. And then also related to Fan Gamer, who did the shirt, it's always neat. They always include little extra things, typically like a postcard or something, some ads. I got a little neat postcard for Secret of Mana with the upcoming Secret of Mana remake coming out, so that's kind of neat. And then also another thing from Fan Gamer that I got that I was super excited about. I have been hoping for this to happen ever since I played the game, and I got the Undertale Collector's Edition. This comes with the game, a locket that plays a little bit of one of the tracks from the game, comes with the soundtrack, and also included a little postcard that is covered up by a little annoying dog sticker, so that's pretty neat. Of course, I absolutely adore Undertale. If you haven't seen my review yet, really recommend checking it out, because it's a fantastic game that I really think it gets some misrepresentation, especially with kind of some of the internet debates with like kind of like crazy toxic communities which, you know, it's a single player game, so you don't have to worry about like online communities or anything. But there's a lot of misinformation put out about this game, that it's like just like stupid memes and things like that, which totally is not the case. Amazing game, amazing soundtrack, absolutely love it. Super excited to have a physical version of it in my collection now. So then how I think I'm going to roll through the rest of this is I'm going to hit on some kind of like random things, and then I got a big chunk of PS4 stuff, some extra collectibles and things like that. So I'll just kind of jump into it, and hopefully this isn't too chaotic, and yeah, let's get to it then. So I mentioned this on the podcast a couple times before. It has now been a few months since this is out, but I backed a Super Russian Roulette for the NES. This is a homebrew Nintendo game. Comes with a cartridge manual, has a custom dust sleeve on it, and basically it is Russian Roulette for the NES. And the neat thing about this is it does use the light gun, but it doesn't actually use the TV for the light gun. It just uses the input. I mean, you can use a controller or something like that, but really fun game. I've already sat down and played this with some friends. It's basically, like I said, it's Russian Roulette straight up. You hold the light gun to your head, pull the trigger. You're playing against a cowboy who you can kind of customize with, you know, colors and different looks, and he is actually like fully voiced, so he has tons of lines. Really neat. Fun game, funny. The cowboy will mock you if you take too long pulling the trigger. Yeah, would definitely recommend checking it out if you get the opportunity. It's definitely a fun party game, something to pull out, and, you know, doesn't require a long play session to enjoy it, and it's always neat to see creative homebrews at this day and age for the NES. Then another game here I actually had totally forgotten about for, what, like 20 years or so, until Retro Games Vinyl and Beer. Shelton did a video of some pickups that he did back from MGC, put it back on my radar, and I've kind of been monitoring eBay and some other places to see if I could find a copy of this. Not a super rare game. I mean, you can find it online, but there's not tons and tons of copies. And this is for a genre that I find particularly enjoyable. I know some people don't really care for FMV games, but this is Brain Dead 13 for the PlayStation 1. And basically kind of like, it's a horror-ish sci-fi FMV game, fully animated. It's something, when I first seen it back in the day, it might have been a commercial, or it was definitely ads in a magazine. I thought it looked super awesome, just never had the opportunity to play it. I actually got a pretty good deal on this compared to what it normally goes for. Some sort of charity auction on eBay, so happy to have this complete, and I do hope to play this sooner than later and do a review on this game, because a lot of people don't actually know about this one. This next little bunch here was a good old-fashioned game store hopping. So Corpse Flood Gaming had come down from Canada. He's just over the border from Minnesota where I live. Came down, we were going to go see a metal concert, and of course we had to hit up some game shops. I took him to a few that he hadn't been to before, and actually managed to get some pretty cool stuff, so that's always a huge plus, because I know sometimes game stores can kind of be a toss-up. But a couple things, unrelated to that, he actually gave me Titanfall 2. The PlayStation 4. I haven't had a chance to play it yet. I did enjoy the first Titanfall, although I only played the demo, but I am more interested in playing through the single-player campaign, which I know is not like super long or anything, or, you know, it's kind of what you'd expect from the modern era first-person shooters, but it's pretty cool. They did a really good job with the mechs and handling them and the whole shebang, so yeah. That is sweet. And then when Jason came down, he actually offered to hook me up with a couple games that he was thinking about getting rid of. So I got South Park Chef's Love Sack, which is a not very good game. And then also got Resident Evil 2 for the Nintendo 64 as well. And more Resident Evil 2 is always a good thing. And it was actually a pretty good port of Resident Evil 2. So then on to the game stores. I don't remember exactly where I got this stuff, but I will do my best to remember. The first shop that we stopped at was the same place that we went to last time he was able to make it down, and that is Toyrific in Maplewood, Minnesota. Only picked up a couple things there. Getting very close to having a complete Metal Gear Solid collection, as I now got Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops Plus. I'm just missing the standard Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, and I still need the Metal Gear Solid game for the Game Boy Color, Metal Gear Ghost Babel, whatever you want to call it. And then I also got Jammer Lammy for the PlayStation 1, Sealed. And this is a follow-up to Parappa the Rapper, another rhythm music-based game, this kind of dealing more with rock. Never had the chance to play this. I will eventually. but I don't know if I'll actually open this because it's not often that I get sealed games for older systems, and I think it's kind of neat to say, hey, I got Jammer Lammy sealed. Like, who cares? You know, it's Jammer Lammy. It wasn't a great game, but I'm sure I will enjoy it. Then the next store we stopped at is actually a store that I'd never been to. Their previous location I hadn't been to in a long time. I had some issues with that store, but decided to check out the new one because, you know, why not? And that is Level Up, and they have a new store in Eagan, Minnesota, and I was actually kind of impressed with what they had. I know the store owners had pulled some stuff from their personal collections to add to the inventory to kind of spice things up, which, you know, I'm not complaining by any means because I ended up getting a few cool things. So first one here is Darkstalkers Chronicle, the Chaos Tower, and this is another Darkstalkers game. Of course, I don't have many of the games in my collection. Always enjoyed them, used to always play them in the arcade, and I've talked about it before, but I actually have a Morgan tattoo, so adding more Darkstalkers is great. Who knows when I'll get to that, being a fighting game and being for the PSP, kind of both areas that I don't venture into too often, but I will play it eventually. And then I also picked up a game that I've wanted for a long time. Originally I wanted to get this for PC, just never did for some reason or another, but that is Jade Empire, and this is the limited edition, which was on the original Xbox. BioWare RPG. As you know, I love all the BioWare games pretty much, and this, even though I've never played it, I know quite a bit about it, and I'm looking forward to sitting down and playing through this eventually. The next store we ended up going to was a place that I forget the name. I believe it's called just like Toys and Collectibles. It's also in Eagan. It's mostly a collectible shop, kind of dealing more with action figures, some comics, you know, magic cards, random toys and collectibles, basically. They actually had some really cool stuff, which I was surprised to see. Only picked up a couple things there at the time just because, you know, budgeting and things like that. But this was I saw it, I was like, I needed to have that. I've seen this before. I actually had the opportunity to get one still in the original packaging, but I don't remember why I didn't get it. I thought it could have been maybe a little cheaper. It wasn't like terribly expensive, but I saw this and I was like, I knew I had to have it just because, you know, I have pretty much a complete collection for the series of games, and this thing is just so damn ugly, and that is the Lara Croft PlayStation 1 memory card. So yeah, look at that. Fine piece of work. I don't know why anybody ever thought this was a good idea to do something like this, but, you know, suckers like me would buy it. You know, they didn't get it, you know, new when it first came out, but hey, I have it now, so, you know, it is what it is. And then this is a set of Wii component cables. And that's all I got from that shop. I do hope to go back there. I have some other kind of random non-gaming stuff that maybe I could possibly make some trades with. They had a couple things that I really wanted, and I think I might be able to work out a trade, but we'll see. So then the last game shop that we stopped at was a location of another store that I've been to, and that's High Score. I'd been to the North St. Paul location before. They also had a little stand set up in the Maplewood Mall, but I stopped by the Woodbury location, and actually they had a pretty good inventory. There was a lot of stuff that I wanted, so kind of picking and choosing what I'm going to leave the store with that day was really tough, but I'm really stoked about what I got. So first one here is Fatal Fury Battle Archives Volume 1. And this is a collection of the old Fatal Fury games, Fatal Fury 1, 2, Fatal Fury Special, and there might have been a third one. Yeah, Fatal Fury 3 is also on here, which I've never played that one. So really, you know, I'm not a big fighting game fan, but Fatal Fury and, you know, Darkstalkers were two of my favorite series. So yeah, really cool to have all those games. Right now I just have Fatal Fury 1 for the Super Nintendo. Still need to get 2 and then Special, but having the compilations are great, and I love that PS2 had so many of these great compilations. And then, as I'd mentioned, I had a complete Tomb Raider collection, and that is actually official as of picking up Tomb Raider: The Prophecy for the Game Boy Advance. Now I have every Tomb Raider game released in a physical version of some form, which is pretty cool. I love Tomb Raider, excited to round out the series. Now I just have to sit down and play a couple of the ones that I have not had the chance to get to yet. And then really the best pickups that I got from High Score was something that I've been looking for a while. Some time ago, maybe a year or so ago, Nintendo did a review of a WayForward game, WayForward being the developers of Shantae, but he did a review of a game called Wendy Every Which Way, and I've been looking for it for a while. I was really hoping to find it at MGC. Had no luck. Of course, I did pick up the 2 Game Boy Color Sabrina games, which are also WayForward games, and really they use the same engine as the original Shantae game, but I picked up Wendy Every Which Way for the Game Boy Color. And the cool thing about this is, again, it's kind of uses the same engine as Shantae, has some of its own mechanics and gameplay aspects, but it's supposed to be a really good game. Haven't had the chance to play it yet, but adding more WayForward to the collection is always a good thing. And one thing that was really neat that when I saw this, I was talking to the shop owner about my adoration of the Shantae series, and he's like, hey, hold on a second. And he was messing around on a laptop and started playing some Shantae remixes, and he's like, yeah, I'm actually putting together basically like kind of like a Jake Kaufman remix playlist for this party that I'm going to. He's like, I'm also a huge WayForward fan, and he's like, hey, have you ever heard of this game? And this is Sigma Star Saga for the Game Boy Advance, and this is kind of like a blend of a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up and a JRPG. Has both elements, you know, characters and town and talking to people and stuff, and then shifts into a shooter. Checked it out a little bit, really liked what I was seeing, so I decided to pick that up. And another WayForward game, a little less known. I haven't really heard anybody ever mention this game before, at least for what I can remember, but this is a game I do hope to get to sooner than later as well. Alright, I'm going to do another cut here, and I'm going to shift some of this stuff out of the way and pull over some of this other stuff, and we will be in the final stretch of this pickup video. So now we'll run through some PlayStation 4 awesomeness that I got. There's not a specific organization to this, so I'm just going to kind of run through it. These have just been games I've picked up in the last few months. One of the more recent ones that I got was South Park: The Fractured Butthole. Awesome PlayStation 4 game. I actually got the Collector's Edition, which came with the Coon Cartman statue, and I will say I was pretty disappointed that this is how the Collector's Edition came. Loose game, thing in the box, not a self-contained Collector's Edition. Actually, the PAL version is a self-contained Collector's Edition where this goes in the box. It says Collector's Edition on it, which is good for them, but kind of sucks that we kind of got the skimpy version. If you do want to see the PAL version of the Collector's Edition, Power Metal Gamer did an unboxing video, so definitely check that out. And then we will run through some of these other ones. So, of course, as you know, big fan of limited run, so I got a few limited run things here. First one is Fury, which is a kind of like, it's mostly a game of boss fights, like timing, bullet hell, dodging mechanics, things like that. Retro styled, looks really cool. Of course, always comes with the little cards and, neat stuff. So these next ones, much like pretty much everything that I pick up, really excited to get. So a lot of people actually didn't know about this, but there was a limited run release, of course, of Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap, the remake, with the hand-drawn art style, aesthetic, pretty much the same game exactly, just has a hand-drawn art style that you're able to switch back and forth between. So of course I picked up the limited run collector's edition of that, which I was really excited and fortunate enough to get. I know a lot of people wanted to get it and were able to, so that's a bummer. Also came with the card, but while that whole deal was going on, a lot of people were really upset, complaining about it on social media and things, and I was like, hey, that's not your only way to get a physical version of Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap. There's also a Play Asia release that had came out a while before that for pre-orders, which I believe is still available, so if you don't have a physical version, I know there's another one coming up here. I forget what company is doing the release for that, but the Play Asia version is another option for you. It's in English and everything, so it's better than nothing. It might not be like an exactly like NTSC release, but it is a playable version on your console for Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap, so that is cool. And of course with that, I've talked about this before in a few different instances, that one of my other most sought after games was Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap for the Sega Master System. I've had a couple opportunities to get it, but I'm a cheap, so I wanted to get it cheaper, and fortunately I managed to do just that. So I finally got the original Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap for the Sega Master System. Good price. This thing is super clean. And also comes with one of the original fold-out poster adverts for the Master System. I won't pull it out. It's basically just screenshots and ads for other games on the Master System. But yeah, pretty much as is. I have, you know, all the versions. I probably won't get the new release, the upcoming version from the other company for Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap. A little much for me to have 3 versions of the PlayStation 4. So then the next game here is the Mega Man Legacy 2 collection, and this actually comes with 2 of the Mega Man games that were not contained in the PlayStation and GameCube Mega Man Collector's Edition. Or was it GameCube? Whatever, I got it on PlayStation 2 Mega Man Collection, but now I have Mega Man 9 and 10, so that is sweet. Another limited run release here. As you kind of see with a trend here, a lot of these games that I've gotten are either retro or more like limited kind of collector's things, but gotta get some games still. So next one here is Jotun. This is the Valhalla edition, which actually I'm not entirely sure. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Looks really cool. Also comes with the card as per usual. And then another really cool kind of polarized release from Limited Run. A lot of people are wondering, why was this game released? Part of me wanted it just for the cultural significance and the things that it caused to happen to the video game industry. Another because as I've said before, I am a sucker for FMV games. As long as they're halfway decent. I know there's some out there that are just god-awful. There's no redeeming qualities whatsoever. This one, I think there are, and that is the Night Trap 25th Anniversary Edition. Night Trap, you know. Most people know about it. Was one of the causes of the ESRB being created because the game was sorely misrepresented by a bunch of dumbass politicians that had no clue what they were talking about. But I now have a copy. I do want to get a copy for the Sega CD eventually. Again, just been looking for it for the right price. And with that, of course, always comes with a little card. And then one neat thing about this release, not necessarily limited quantities like typical limited run games, but they did distribute the My Life in Gaming documentary about Night Trap, and this is called Night Trap 25 Years Later, put on a Blu-ray, so that is cool. I'm happy to support My Life in Gaming. They have a fantastic YouTube channel. Definitely recommend checking it out. They do a lot of talk about how to get the best out of your retro systems, besides a lot of other really neat videos that they do. So, yeah. And this is a game I ended up picking up because I was finally ready to play it. I actually have the cover reversed right now, but this is Nier Automata, the Day 1 edition, and this is a freaking awesome game. Loved this game. I have some high praises for it. Who knows, right now I'm kind of sitting on this as my Game of the Year pick for this year. You know, the year's not over yet, but if anybody's on the fence about this game, awesome. Just make sure that when you play through the game, you do not stop at the initial first ending. So one of the kind of interesting presentation things that this game does is how it presents the main story arc. Instead of having a start to finish, it breaks things up in a unique way. Not necessarily sure why they make these decision choices sometimes. Gravity Rush 2 did the exact same thing where they'll throw some credits at you when the game's not actually over, which I think a lot of people will probably shut the game off at that point because they're like, oh, that's the credits, the game's over, I'm not going to sit through this. And they kind of do this in Nier Automata. They actually throw up a message after the credits that say, hey, the game's not over, continue playing. And there's a lot of people that don't do that. And really the kind of how it does is there's your initial story arc that ends, then the second story arc kind of covers a lot of the same events, more abridged, but goes a little bit further, and then once you finish that, then it goes to a third arc, and then you do, you know, it's just awesome. It sounds convoluted, it's really not. You just sit down and you play through the game. Absolutely fantastic. Platinum developed, Yoko Taro masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. This next game I had pre-ordered quite a long time ago. This company actually initially did a Kickstarter release, but when they did the Kickstarter there was no physical version of it, so unfortunately I didn't back it. That's one of my main criteria for backing a game on crowdfunding, is that it has a physical version. But like not too long after the Kickstarter ended, they finally announced a physical version, which is like, alright, no, it is what it is, so I pre-ordered it. Really looking forward to this one, and this is Battle Chasers. And it is kind of a blend of Western Japanese RPG based on a comic series. And like I said, it's just something that I thought looked really cool. One of my friends played through it, said he enjoyed it quite a bit. So this next one here, I am so glad to finally have this. This was another limited run release. This was one of their first attempts at doing something different than their typical limited run release, and they did a pre-order for Skullgirls, which is a very, very cool fighting game. Kind of the big separating factor for the game is the art style is all hand animated. Actually, I'd mentioned the lead animator in my Shantae Half Genie Hero review, Mariel Cartwright. She helped out in doing animations in Shantae Half Genie Hero, but she was the animator for the game, along with some other folks, of course. But I'd pre-ordered this, I think, about a year ago, and there was all sorts of issues, shipping embargoes and issues with manufacturing in China and so on and so forth, yada yada. It's finally been released. Because of that, they threw in a couple extra goodies, which, you know, it's kind of cool, but I appreciate the extra thought. But Skullgirls, the second Encore limited run release. Again, not crazy big into fighting games, but this one looks sweet. And with that, I also got the soundtrack as well, because, you know, why not? And the little goodie that they threw in was this interesting card transparent thing, which I'm not entirely sure what it's about, but, you know, comes with it, so I can't complain. Of course, you always get the extra limited run cards and the decal. And then lastly, for this pickup video anyways, the other limited run release that I got was another one that, you know, had some people upset that they weren't able to get their hands on this. But the cool thing about this release is for the standard version of the game, they had left it open for pre-orders, so as many people could get a copy of the game as desired. But I'm of course talking about Ys Origin, and this is the collector's edition from Limited Run. So have that, really cool. Of course comes with the card. And then the last PlayStation 4 game here is one of a lot of debate right now about its quality. I vastly disagree with a lot of the reviews I'm currently seeing. But you always gotta wonder when a game company takes a game from 25 years ago that wasn't a super successful series at all, you kind of wonder what could possibly go wrong. And maybe you know what I'm talking about, but that of course is Bubsy, the Woolly Strike Back, which is the return of the Bubsy series, infamously known for the Bubsy 3D game, one of the first 3D platformers that was out there. Not a very good game. The whole series, I think, was tainted by that. A lot of people think all the games are terrible, which I completely disagree about that. I've talked about this before. The original Bubsy game I thought was just fine. Not a great game by any means. Second one had some issues, of course. Bubsy 3D was a terrible one. And there was also a Atari Jaguar version, but I've never played that. Don't really know much about it. I've actually had the chance to sit down and play through this game, and I thought it was a pretty decent game. It's a faithful throwback to the old school collectathon kind of games. Controls are tight. I thought the design and art style of the game was fun and enjoyable. Not a super long game, not a whole lot of variety going through, but for anybody who can look back at retro games and say, that is a good game, I don't see how anybody could really knock this game. So, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think a lot of the reviews, like I said, are unfair and unwarranted, but, you know, it is what it is. People are going to be, you know, how they want to be. So then the last actual game things that I got here before I jump into some of the other neat stuff that I got, a couple indie box releases, and as some of you might have heard, indie box has basically ended their subscription service, where I've mentioned them before. Previously I'd gotten the Stanley Parable collector's edition from them, and basically what they did was they had a subscription service that you didn't actually have to stay subscribed to for months at a time. You could just sign up for a month and then cancel it. And they did monthly releases for games that were originally just digital only games, so it gave people the opportunity to get a physical version. The only drawback with Indie Box is that they actually didn't include a disc with a lot of the games. Typically it was a download code, but the collector's editions were put together pretty well, and there's a few games that I had wanted to get that I missed out on, a few that I got here that I'm really excited to have. So RIP Indie Box subscription service, but it sounds like they're coming up with a new way to handle doing what they do, which maybe it'll just be a pre-order system. I will be extremely bummed if they just end doing game releases outright, because, you know, somebody needs to be releasing these games in a physical version, I think. I mean, this kind of ties into some new growing debates with how some companies are handling game releases. Cuphead, for example, they've announced that they're doing an Xbox One release, but it's basically just a case with a download code. This is kind of the same thing. You get a little bit more, of course, but kind of throws in the question of, well, what's the point of doing this? Of course, I'd mentioned before that Mirror's Edge Catalyst came with a download code, and at that point I pretty much decided that EA games I probably would not buy on PC anymore, even though I vastly prefer to play a lot of games on the PC. When they do stuff like that, I'm not gonna buy into that, because it's kind of a load of bullshit. And that's why I ended up getting Mass Effect Andromeda for the PlayStation 4 instead of the PC, because again, with that, it just came with a download code. And I think pretty much most EA games, as far as I know now, are doing that for the PC ports of games. I know a lot of people don't care at all because people aren't PC gamers. A lot of PC gamers now are completely shifted to digital, but you know, I'm gonna keep fighting the good fight and hope we can still continue to get physical media for the PC games. So with that said, the first game here is Hollow Knight, and this is a really awesome Metroidvania style game. Very cool art style, kind of has the animated look. Haven't had a chance to play this, although I think I'm probably going to be playing this next. I have a friend that says one of the best game releases of this year. I've heard nothing but great things about it. Looks really cool, and super happy to have a physical version of that. And then the next one here, I think a lot of people probably already know about. That is the Banner Saga Collector's Edition. Very interesting, kind of like RPG using some strategy elements. Very grueling, punishing game, but again, I've heard nothing but great things about it, and happy to see it got a physical release of some form. So then the last thing here that you can actually play on a video game system, or should we say a video game system itself. I know, again, kind of like a polarized thing, especially for collectors to be picking up, but I did get a SNES Classic, which was a lot easier to get than the NES Classic. Pretty much had no problem ordering mine, and now they're restocking them and stuff. So for anybody who has not gotten one of these yet, don't give in to scalper prices, just be patient. Stores are getting stock. I haven't had a chance to hack this yet, but I got it all set up and ready to go to add more games to it. So yeah, is what it is. Glad I got it. So then this last little bit here is some random goodies. Got some amiibos, so let's check those out real quick. Of course, had to get the Metroid 2-pack. I don't have a 3DS, I don't have Samus Returns. Unfortunately, I do hope to have that eventually, but having a amiibo with kind of like the cover representation of Metroid 2 with the Metroid and the Broken Jar, I thought was pretty sweet. I have the other Metroid amiibos, of course. And then this was a no-brainer must-have for me, and that is the Cloud amiibo. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get the Player 2 Cloud amiibo, which was a GameStop exclusive, I think, and sold out pretty quick, and yeah, unfortunately, don't have that. Hope to get it eventually, but I was able to get the Standard and Player 2 Bayonettas for Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2, so yeah, more amiibos. I know some people don't really care for them too much, but I like to have them. Neat little figures. You know, I could unbox them. I might unbox them, but who knows what I'm going to do. I'll figure that out when I move my game room. Now, this next item was super random, complete impulse buy. Kind of makes me wonder what I was thinking when I got it, but hey, it's still pretty cool. It was a really cool price. A lot cheaper than what they basically had it on clearance. But I got the Mass Effect Omni-Blade, which is actually kind of like a cosplay prop. It actually, you know, sticks on your arm, has a full-out blade. Would pull it out, but for the sake of just talking about it real quick, I just leave it in the box. So that is that. One of the more random items in my collection, I guess. The next thing here, I pre-ordered quite a while ago. Glad it finally showed up. Have read some of it so far, but it is the Overwatch Anthology Volume 1. And basically this is a collection of the comics that they've done to kind of cover a lot of the Overwatch story, character backstories and that. Pretty decent collection of the comics. Good stuff, you know, Blizzard doesn't skimp when it comes to their storytelling. Another thing that I'd ordered quite a while ago, and I am happy to finally have it, is the Gravity Days or Gravity Rush 2 cat figure, action figure of the lead character from the Gravity Rush games. I actually have Raven, the other main character, figure by Figma on pre-order. I think it might have actually shipped. It just takes a long time because I believe they come from Japan. So there is a shipping delay with that. Hopefully, once I get my game room moved over, I can actually start putting up some of these figures, which is something I'm really looking forward to, because what's the point of getting all this neat stuff if it's just always sitting in the box? And then these last two things were kind of re-inspired by the Cartridge Club. So the Cartridge Club is a community. Kind of think of a book club, but video games. They do monthly game, then they bring people on their podcast to talk about it. They have discussions about it on their forums, but they're not just limited to that. It's a whole collection of game collectors, people who play video games, just like talking about video games, content creators. A lot of people that I follow on YouTube are parts of the Cartridge Club. I think it was last month they did Portal as their game of the month, and if you have watched previous videos, I'm no stranger to talking about my absolute love of the Portal games. One of my top game series of all time. Absolutely love them. Played through them so many times. But when they start talking about it, you know, I started delving into the Portal again, listening to the music, and decided to pick up a couple random Portal things. One, Corpse Blood Gaming actually told me about that I really had no idea about, and there is the game and related toy sets for Lego Dimensions, and basically it's a Toys to Life game where you have the game, you get the sets that you can add into the game to give you extra levels or characters and things like that. And it turns out that they did one for Portal 2, so I picked that up. I will pull these out and put it together once I get my game room moved over, so that's really neat. I like having more stuff for the games that I love the most in my collection. And then this was kind of cool. I haven't had a chance to play this yet, but I picked up Portal, the uncooperative cake acquisition game, and this is a Portal-based board game. And it's kind of neat that it comes with a code for Portal 2, so when I open this up, finally get some friends over to play it, probably we'll see if anybody is interested in that code. So, yeah, that is everything that I've gotten in the last few months. Kind of all over the place, but, you know, it is what it is. I pick up what I decide to pick up when I pick it up, and I think pretty much all of this stuff is awesome. Super excited to have all of my collection. Now it's just about making the time to play all these games. So, of course, as always, I would love to hear your thoughts on these, some of these games that I haven't played yet. Have you played them? What are your thoughts? Did anybody pick up some of these limited run releases as well? And just let me know your thoughts on some of this stuff. It's a conversation. I don't want to just show off what I got. It's more talking about the games and building memories surrounding them. Well then, with that said, that will pretty much do it for this pickup video. Might be a little while until my next. Who knows what happens. I pick up games at the most random times when I'm not expecting to, but it's definitely something I love doing, and I have no plans on stopping doing that anytime soon. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time on the Game Grinder.